I'm not even going to do an intro for this video. Welcome to the channel, but I am absolutely fuming still over Arsenal's game against Fulham. Here in Australia, it was a midnight kickoff, so it didn't finish till about 2. Couldn't even sleep till about 3:30. So, I'm still tired. If it was a win, it would have been worth it. But this is the cons of supporting this team overseas. Even after the game, you can't sleep because you're either gassed or fuming. Something would have happened that wouldn't let you just casually go to bed. First of all, a lot of slack already on Arteta. Again, putting Partey in at right back. Personally, I think now that Zinchenko's coming back, remember he didn't have a full preseason. I'm hoping now that he's back, he's going to be back into that starting lineup and we're going to have our traditional back four. I think last season specifically, without Zinchenko, there was a lot of games where we dropped points because we didn't have an inverting fullback. I think Arteta is trying to get someone else to be able to play that role. Partey does it okay. I just don't think it sort of brings the best out of us or him when he's there. But I do get it. That's why Kieran-Tierney's gone. Because we also did drop points when we had, traditional fullbacks with no one inverting. So that's his system. I get it. He wants to play that way. But now that Zinchenko's back, we need our traditional back four. And we need to sort out who's going to be playing in that midfield. We're going to get all into this video, but first I want to start off by saying I think Fabio Vieira got absolutely robbed of having his sort of biggest moment in an Arsenal jersey. When it came down, we were 1-0 down. It was him and Zinchenko, and immediately he brought a spark. He looked better than anyone else on the pitch, seemed a lot stronger, more capable, more lively than I've ever seen him before. Even without his output, he just seemed levels yesterday. He seemed like he's sort of grown. I don't know what happened. I didn't even expect Arteta to choose him off the bench. Somehow he goes for him, and he does exactly what is required of him. Gets on the ball, picks up good spaces, drives, puts in a beautiful cross for Nketiah, works hard, wins the penalty. So he was directly involved in both our goals. I think the only thing he could have maybe done better, right at the end of the game, he had a shot, curled it outside the box. If that would have gone in, it would have been an absolute 10 out of 10 performance. Been written in the history books probably if we go on to win the league. But he gets robbed of that. Poor defending for that corner. No one's even marking Polinia. He gets so much time, which is absolutely disgusting. They're already a man down. They had 10, we had 11, and still they're getting that open on a corner. I think our concentration levels just dropped. And I think, the one thing I will blame Arteta for yesterday, I didn't really have a problem with the starting lineup. I get it. If Zinchenko isn't fully fit, you need someone to invert. Thomas Partey is really the only other person that can do that. So whatever, that was the lineup. The only thing I will say is I think when we went ahead, he should not have brought off Odegaard. Bringing on Jorginho, it's basically saying we're trying to defend this lead. We got 11, they got 10. We're at home as well. If it was an away game, I get it, completely understand. But we're at home, we should be putting this game to bed. We shouldn't be worried about trying to sort of defend the lead. We should be going for that 3rd, 4th, 5th goal. I think as well, Vieira and Martinelli and Zinchenko had really good chemistry on that left-hand side. Why, move him to the right, bring off Odegaard, bring in Jorginho? It just didn't make sense to me. I think that's something, he definitely has to call for. Not saying there should be any Mikel outs or anything. He's still a fantastic manager. But sometimes you got to call it as it is. That was his mistake. Saka made the mistake that led to that first goal. Besides that, there was a lot of poor passes as well. It just happened that Saka's was the one that ended up getting exposed. But, our sharpness passing-wise, I thought was pretty poor for that opening stretch of the game. After that, we definitely grew into it, and we had a lot of nice passages of play. People getting into good positions, but just nothing was able to come out of it until Fabio Vieira came on. Now, getting into this next point, I think before anything happens, this Kai Havertz agenda needs to stop. Yes, he came off, Fabio Vieira came on, and we started looking better. But I also attribute slightly to Zinchenko coming on, our system forming more like what it did last year. Vieira did great, but I think Havertz also played, all right. I'm not going to say he was outstanding, but the slack that he's getting, he was by nowhere near the worst player on the pitch. None of the goals were his fault. He was one of the people putting Martinelli into good spaces. Another thing, off the ball, I get this whole it's a myth thing, but off the ball, he picks up spaces so that their right back has to, sort of pay attention to him. And we saw yesterday the amount of cross ball switches into Martinelli, and he had acres of space. I saw, an interview with Zinchenko, I think it was a few months back, talking about the inverted role, sort of saying if he's able to get his winger one-on-one and he just keeps playing balls into him, he's done his job. I think that's similar to Havertz and what Odegaard does on the other side. You see when Rice gets the ball, he's pinging it out to Saka, sometimes pinging it out to Martinelli, and it's because our 2-8s are feeling the attention of their opposing wingbacks. So what happens? We need them to be a little bit more productive. I think, if it's a game where maybe Martinelli gets a couple of those chances, maybe questions Leno, something happens, I think a lot of the slack wouldn't go on to Havertz. But remember, he's an 8. He's winning recoveries. He's winning duels. He's playing good passes. I think a little bit of this needs to chill. Don't get me wrong. I want more. Definitely want more. We paid 65 mil for him, and it's not enough. But it's also equally not enough to get the amount of hate. We just need to sort of see what's happening here. Remember, Arteta took a few years to sort of unlock Granit Xhaka. Let's see if he does the same. It's been 3 games. He's not the worst player on the team. He's not the worst player on the field. He runs his socks off, wins the ball back, puts in good passes. For an 8, that's sort of what you're asking for anyway. And he makes really good runs. Just saw Arteta say they couldn't really get him the ball. I think some of that will come with time. But I think it just needs to chill. Personally, I think against United, I probably wouldn't start him. I'm not saying because of his poor performances. I think just matching up wise, if we have Partey and Rice in that midfield, we can really overrun a weak Man U midfield, and that would just give us a little bit more. But that's sort of my take on Havertz. Let me know what you think as well. Just sort of going to come up and sum up everything else. Like I said, I think Martinelli could have done a little bit more. He had quite a few chances. Didn't really question Leno once. All of them were straight to him. Thought Trossard was quite poor. A lot of the touches he had was sort of just going every which way in the box. Couldn't control it. You could see him getting yanked off at half time. Saka, very poor for their first goal. After that, had little moments of, linking up play. But I, expect to see when Ben White is at right back, giving him more support to see the best of him. Real quick, I'm just going to, quickly go through all the players, give some player ratings. I want to hear what you all have to say as well. Ramsdale, I'm going to say a 5. I don't think that second goal, he had anything to do with it. The first one, there's question marks. I put that more on Saka personally, because I think, he expected to get chipped. He was trying to run back for that far corner, ended up having to dive the opposite way. It was an ugly one. And I think, it's sort of instructions for him to come out, be that sweeper keeper. I'm not going to put too much on him. I'm sticking to 5. Right back, Partey. It's a bit of a tricky one. I'm going to give a 6. Playing out of position, he does still, typically win the ball back, drive into different spaces than we're used to. Passing's not the best, but, it's different sort of situations that he's used to. So I'm going to say 6. Ben White, Don't think he was that great. I thought when he moved to right back, he started looking a lot better. It's going to give him a 5 standard. If it was just his centre back performance, I'd probably give it a 4. Based on when he started coming into right back, I'll give it a 6. So I'll put it somewhere in the middle. Saliba, I'm going 4. Don't think he was good as well. He got caught a few times, had to get some last-ditch tackles in, nearly gave away a penalty at the end. Haven't really seen it back, but it looks like it could have been on Adama Traore. Next up, left back, we are going with Kivior. Again, didn't see him do much. He sort of did go up and down the flanks, similar to maybe Ben Whitewood. Didn't really give that underlapping support to Martinelli. So I'm just going to give him a 5 left back, not really his typical role. Midfield, Rice, I thought he was one of the better players. I'll give him 7. If we would have won, maybe I'd be a bit more generous. But I think one thing as well from him, I'd like to see him do a little bit more, starting to become a bit predictable with his passes, just pinging it out to Saka and Martinelli. For now, it works, but if that gets caught, maybe he can sort of switch it up, play a bit more direct through the channels, linking up with Eddie or something like that. Odegaard, again, mixed. I thought he had some really good moments. His shooting boots were not there at all, though. I feel like he could not get a good strike off. Maybe he had one that sort of went straight to Leno again. Besides that, was quite poor. I'm glad he didn't take the penalty. I'm glad Saka took it based off his shooting performance yesterday. And I think that's how it's got to be. A game-by-game dependent thing. Whoever's sort of feeling more confident on the day, just take it. But for yesterday's game, I'll give Odegaard I'm going to give him a 7. Just because I think of the attacking players, I think he was trying to get on the ball the most, trying to make something out of it. By no means was great, but I think a 7 is pretty fair for Odegaard. Havertz, I'll give him a 5. Probably would give him a 6. He did do some decent things, but was offside a few too many times. He got an assist, but he was offside for, so I'm going to stick to a 5. Martinelli, again, not great. And I love Martinelli. I'm going to give him a 4 yesterday. I think, just didn't do enough when he got into those chances. A lot of times he was given a lot of space and just could not do anything with it. Trossard, going to give a 3. Thought he was our poorest player. Like I said, could not control the ball. Just wasn't able to do much. Pressing wasn't there. And I think, Eddie, who's not my favorite player, but I think he is definitely the starter at this moment until someone wins it off him. I think he deserves to be up there. Saka, a mistake that led to the goal, scored the penalty. I'm going to give him a 4 as well. A minute into the game, you just can't be making those mistakes. It was a poor pass. Fulham capitalised, and it didn't give us that same chance to sort of go ahead early. So I'm going to give him a 4. Substitutes, Zinchenko, I'll give him a 7. When he came on, looked good. You can see that class when he comes into midfield. He's so smooth on the ball, and I really hope he's fit enough to play 90 against United, because I think we need to go back to that traditional back 4. Next up, who we got? Fabio Vieira, my man of the match. I'm giving him a 9. If we would have won, it would be a 10. But, in terms of a substitute, he did absolutely everything you could ask for. Got on the ball, made an impact, was contributed to 2 goals, was lively, was absolutely perfect. And I'm really impressed. I haven't seen this out of Fabio Vieira before. And I think if he can keep this up, maybe he plays with Odegaard as the 2/8s. I don't want to get too gassed because it's sort of just one sub-appearance. But what I saw was very good, very class. And so I'm definitely going to start keeping an eye on Fabio Vieira. Last sub, 2 more subs. Jorginho, not really his fault. I'll give him a 5. I just don't think he should have come on. Nketiah, I'll give him an 8. Came on, lively, again, scored the goal, got us ahead, and it was our poor defending that ended up drawing. I was going to say losing. It feels like a loss, but drawing the game. Then we've got Mikel. I'm going to give him a 5. That starting lineup, I think that's what we expected. If we find out Zinchenko is fully fit and he just happened to choose that, I'd knock it down to a 3-4. But I think, Zinchenko didn't have a preseason. We need an inverted fullback. I guess Partey is sort of shoehorning there, and the rest of the team fills itself out. Actually, no, I want to go 4. I think Trossard should not have started. Yes, he had an excellent preseason, but Nketiah's been on form, sort of creating things out of nothing. Yes, he could have done better finishing that last game, but he ended up winning the penalty that won us the match. So I think he should have started. And then, like I said, when we were 2-1 up, they went down to 10 men. Why bring on Jorginho? That's definitely the wrong move. We're at home. We need to finish the game off. And then the ref, I'm not even going to talk about him. I think it was a fine job. Didn't do anything really wrong or right. So just not going to touch on that. But now that I've sort of gotten things off my chest, if you've made it this far, thank you for making it this far. Please, like and subscribe. It does help out the channel. Let me know your rankings. What do you think of mine? Yeah. On to the next game. Hopefully the one against United is better. But for today, that's all for me. Peace.